On today's Locked On Bama, we're going to have Tony Tsoukalas. I'm not sure. I'll ask him how to pronounce it. We'll get with him in a second. From Bama Central on to talk all things Bama. So stick with us, Locked On Bama.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. And Tony Tsoukalas, did I do that right?
Closer. Yeah, it's Tsoukalas. Yeah.
Tsoukalas. Tsoukalas, tomato. It's all
I've heard worse, especially in your intro.
Yeah. With Bama Central. Tony, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Just getting over the end of spring camp. Hopefully I can kind of go into cruise mode until the fall. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, look, you're not going to get a lot of days off at Nick Saban's Alabama. When we hire the next guy and he's a complete flop, you'll have like Wednesday through Saturday off most of the time. But during Nick Saban,
we're going to have angry Alabama fans all the time, and that might be even more work. So.
Yeah, that's a good look. If I learned anything yesterday, it's that everybody's angry. When a pitcher leaves the mound to form tackle a guy who hits a home run, I know that we have reached the tail end of society. So everybody enjoy this last football season we're about to have.
Look, Alabama needs some help at cornerback. Maybe they go over and recruit.
Yeah, that was a big hit.
That was a big hit.
That was
brutal,
Metchie.
Man.
Yeah, Metchie would have been proud of that one when Metchie laid that block on Florida in the SEC championship game 2 seasons ago. That it looked like that hit.
Tony, you know what? Since we brought up Metchie, let's kind of start there just for a second. Yesterday, I just happened to be flipping channels and came across the NFL Network, or actually maybe CBS Network. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. And they were doing a like spotlight on different players coming in the draft. And I just happened to flip on it right when they started talking about John Metchie, who was born in, was it Taiwan?
I think it was Taiwan. Then he went to Ghana. Then he moved to
Ghana, and then of course ended up in Canada. And then at age 13, he talked to his mom. He had never really played football. The only thing he knew very little about football. The only thing his brother said, the only thing they knew about football was from Japanese comic books. I mean. That's like learning sex ed from Disney. I mean, it's just that's not exactly how this is going to work. And although it might be now, I don't know. But that was awful. I'm getting too political right here at the start.
I remember covering in like 2014, a Japanese team came to play like a high school all-star team at Central High School in Tuscaloosa. It was pretty wild. I mean, they have like a team. They have like a league. How
did it go?
I think actually the high school all-star team won.
But
it was a close game. It was a close game. It wasn't like, the Japanese team like held its own, I guess. It was it's not like they were an absolute embarrassment, if I remember right. And they got to meet Alabama. And they were these are like, I guess, professional or, semi-professional. I don't know how much money they're making over there in Japan, but they got to meet Alabama, I guess that team. I think it was 2014. They got to meet those teams, and they were just blown away by these college kids. And obviously, these kids are way bigger than they were. So it was a neat story.
Well, anyway, so Metchie is in Canada. They moved to Canada. His family moves around a lot. And at age 13, he talks his mom into letting him go to this boarding school in Maryland. And it's kind of wild. And Jimmy has left the building for some reason. But, it's kind of wild. And, it was just interesting to me that Jimmy, you how did you do this? How did you mess it? Oh, my God, now you're turning everything around. Oh, my God, he just left again. Okay, look, I'm not bringing him back till I'm done with this story. It's getting irritating. But so John Metchie talks his mom into letting him go to this boarding school where he apparently just starts kicking ass. And then he was a great player, a 4-star type of guy. But man, I don't think Alabama fans know his backstory as well as they should. He's probably one of the more underappreciated players, if not just one of the more underappreciated backstories in Alabama history, if you ask me. This guy is so interesting.
Yeah, he's a guy that's like he's like a citizen of the world, basically, like you said. I mean, how many people spent time in Asia, Africa, Canada? You know what I'm saying? It's really crazy, and he's a heck of a receiver too. But he's a cool guy to talk to. I think he's kind of got like a humble energy about him. But he's a really fun guy to talk to, and he does have a good story. I mean, another thing too that adds to the story is like being from Canada. He didn't get to see his family for a while because of COVID. So that just adds to the whole complications of traveling and these Canadian athletes, because of the restrictions and the border restrictions due to COVID, they were separated for their families for a while, and that's got to be tough.
It does. And look, I didn't really think that's where I was going to go when we invited you on, is talking about John Metchie, but really, really, really hoping he lands somewhere very cool coming up in this draft. It would be really great if he were to end up. I think he needs to be at a New England. He's not the most explosive receiver in the world, but I would love for him to be somewhere where they appreciate a damn good. Boy, I hate to call him a possession receiver. That just pigeonholes
Oh, I
him.
think he is a possession receiver, though. Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
fair. I mean,
Okay.
Stephon Diggs is a possession receiver. I mean, you can be a good possession receiver. Wes Walker was a possession receiver. Julian Edelman. So I mean, Alabama's New England's had a lot of them. So yeah, you're right about that. I think he would.
New England's offensive tackles are possession receivers. I mean, that's how many
Yeah,
possession
sometimes.
receivers they have. Jimmy, you're back with us. Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to be sure we can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've been popping in and out, and
Yep.
I don't know. You haven't even talked yet, and you've ruined the podcast. I don't know.
I'm really
We're just
busy.
trying to give the viewers some, kind of mix them up, not let them get too comfortable. It's kind of like a defensive look. You got to like, Jimmy's just the roaming linebacker, just popping in and out. Am I blitzing? Am I not? Yeah.
It's reality TV. It's reality TV.
You're mixing up formations. That's true, but I think Alabama fans are looking at you like you're Bill O'Brien. You're mixing them up for no reason, and they're not successful.
Well, at least but much like I am predictable. It is predictable that it is predictable I'd have a slight tech issue for 3 minutes, but I'm good.
All right, let me tell everybody about Built Bar. Tony, Built Bars, these are delicious. You need to go check them out at built.com. Use promo code LOCK15, get 15% off that order. These things are absolutely delicious. They're covered in real chocolate. You can try their puffs. These are smaller, still covered in chocolate. They're marshmallowy. They're protein-infused marshmallow. They are so good. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15. Most Built Bars only contain like 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar and 4 net carbs, so it's perfect for a keto or a keto diet. Tony's not familiar with the keto diet. That's what Jimmy calls a keto diet. And I told him the keto diet is when you on a diet and you sleep on the couch of your murderous friend. That's exactly what Jimmy thinks a keto diet is for some reason. But go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off that order.
I had milk and a peanut butter and chocolate chip cookie for breakfast. What diet is that?
Not a good one. Not a good
one. That is the I hope your affairs are in order diet. Tony, let's talk a little bit about the spring game. Don't give me Will Anderson. We all know Will Anderson is a different. He's an alien. I mean, we knew he stood out. Okay, but tell me who you were really impressed with that maybe not everybody's talked about yet.
Jamil Burroughs, the fact that he was able to to get an inside pressure, that's something that Alabama's defenses, you would think, would be one of the question marks that they have, is can they get that inside pressure that they have with Fedarian Mathis or Christian Barmore or Quinnen Williams? Who's going to be that next guy? And Jamil Burroughs had 2 sacks during the A-Day game, and he could definitely be one of those guys along with Tim Smith, somebody like that. So I think maybe he wasn't talked about enough. Trying to think of other people that like kind of are a little bit under the radar. I'm pretty high on Chris Braswell. I think that, he's obviously a 5-star guy that's been pretty good. And I think he's going to have a more increased role this year. Christian Leary looked good out of the slot. I tend to get I tend to tamper weigh down expectations when you see a guy do well for the second team offense. I mean, we saw Ajay Hall do well for the second team offense, and you are going against the second team defense. That being said, Christian Leary beat Malachi Moore on his touchdown, and that's basically a first team defender right there. So yeah, maybe him as well.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Talking about Leary versus Ajay's performance last year, I was looking at Ajay. I think I had to write up something for the Texas On 3 site about Ajay. So I did a little more reading about his spring game, and I forgot. I can't remember who wrote it, but it was describing Ajay's breakout spring game, and it mentioned that he made one of the best plays he made was a catch over the head of defensive back Jacoby McBride, and
Right.
I was like, we should have, as writers, as fans, as experts, we should have been putting on the brakes, over that a year ago. Whereas Leary, beat up on Malachi Moore. Also, a weird thing about Ajay's spring game, I'd forgotten until I went back and looked. Who he wasn't the leading receiver on A-Day. It was actually Trayshawn Holden, who had almost 100 yards on 9 catches. He had a better day statistically than Ajay, yet for whatever reason, one of the things we're really good at Alabama, we can build a cult following for no reason. That's what we do best.
You know what happened with Ajay? I'll tell you right now. After the A-Day game, Nick Saban said that they didn't have anyone with the speed that he had on the offense. And Nick Saban was trying to emphasize the fact that they needed more speed at the wide receiver position. And like Ajay Hall's not even like what you would call like an absolute burner, but he does have some speed.
Right.
And that was before that 8-day game was before they brought in Jamison Williams. So like obviously they had that speed after that. And so I think people just got carried away. You know who doesn't get talked about from last year's 8-day game with Ajay is the fact that Paul Tyson put some of those throws on the money. And they were great throws. No, he gets no credit for them. I'm not saying it's all Paul Tyson either, but I'm just saying like let's give him at least a sliver of credit on that performance as well.
No, that's absolutely right.
Let me say this about Paul Tyson too. I was able to discern some information yesterday from a very good source of mine, and we talked about Paul Tyson because it sort of came up in a joking manner, but it turned very serious very quickly because Paul Tyson's going to Arizona State. My son is going to Arizona State next year. It's just coincidental, and I made the joke that maybe my son will end up playing quarterback more there, just teasing around because I've met Paul and I've met his dad. They're great family, and I was just teasing. But in the end, I think Alabama fans might want to keep paying attention to Paul Tyson, not because he's going to come back to Alabama and quarterback or anything like that, and not because necessarily I think he's going to go to Arizona State and set the Pac-12 on fire. But I can tell you this: my understanding from a conversation yesterday is this, that there is nobody who is more dedicated to eventually becoming involved in football, meaning coaching wise, than Paul Tyson. He is absorbing everything he could absorb. He is taking notes on a daily basis. He is just being a sponge to all this football information. And now, he played at a great high school in Hewitt-Trussville with some incredible players where he was pretty incredible himself. Then he goes to Alabama, and no, he doesn't get to play a lot, but he plays with some greatness and he plays behind some greatness. And now he's going to the Pac-12 to see a whole different environment, play for a former NFL guy in Herm Edwards, and see a different part of the world. I'm telling you, Paul Tyson's and he's got the bloodlines to be a pretty good coach, just throwing that out there. So I feel like Paul Tyson's the kind of guy. It just dawned on me, man, he might end up being a football coach at the University of Alabama in the next 20 years. That's not a bad idea.
So what you're saying is Paul Tyson's going to be the eventual successor to 90-year-old Nick Saban.
No, 160-year-old Nick Saban when his batteries die. He is a cyborg, Tony. We've determined this.
Breaking news. We've identified the Saban successor. Yeah,
and again, I really like the Tyson family, and they love the University of Alabama, obviously. And I hope everybody understands that he's only going to Arizona State, because, obviously, he's behind. He would have been the 4th string. And I think he's going to go there, and I don't know that he's going to have a chance to play, but I'm looking forward to Paul Tyson being involved with the University of Alabama because I can tell you right now, great family and great kid and smart dude. And I was really encouraged by the fact he's working so hard towards maybe getting into coaching later. But all right, so what else from spring game stood out to you, Tony? Is there any other thing that maybe something that disappointed you? You know, Jimmy and I have been on here really hyping up some of these guys. We've talked about Burrows and Leary, and who hadn't talked about Jalen Milroe? I mean, I made the joke that I put $50 on him to win the Kentucky Derby. He looked so good to me. So, what disappointed you without pissing somebody off?
I'm great at pissing people off, but you know, I before the game I was talking to people and I said that, you know, I was supposed to project like a 8A MVP, and mine was Trey Sanders, and I don't have his stats in front of me, but they weren't super great, and I was kind of thinking that maybe he would have a great game. Honestly, the running game as a whole wasn't super great. You know, if you take away Jahmyr Gibbs, I hate to play if you take away the best player of the game, you know, but if you take away the 75-yard touchdown from Jahmyr Gibbs, even his numbers aren't super great. Trey Sanders, you know, didn't set the world on fire. Jamarian Miller was solid, but like I think he averaged like less than 3 yards a carry, if I'm right, or if he did, he's right around there. So the running game, I guess, I thought would be a little bit better, but I mean, the defense was so dominant on the day in general that it was hard to move the ball in any capacity.
Yeah, I agree. I'd hope there would be more of a concerted effort, but you know, Jamarian, I thought the running back. Here's what's kind of strange about it. Alabama didn't run the ball well. That's true. Statistically, wasn't a good day. You take out the Gibbs run, and it was a bad day statistically. Yet I thought Gibbs impressed. Obviously, it was the one run, and he was the MVP because of it. But Gibbs one run, he impressed. Trey Sanders looked healthier to me in the sense he was able to do the Najee hurdle. I don't know that that's something that Trey Sanders would have even attempted one spring ago, or not even last fall. And then I think Jamarian Miller playing with the twos. I thought Jamarian Miller showed glimpses that he's going to be a really good player down the road. So it's kind of a strange dichotomy where the running game wasn't great. It wasn't statistically good, yet all three scholarship backs, I think, did things that gave the fans some sort of optimism about all three of their futures.
And remember, we saw Trey Sanders do a hurdle against Auburn. Maybe that's like a thing that he does. I don't know if that's something that Alabama wants to see somebody that recently broke his pelvis do. But like, you know, maybe that's something that he does is hurdle. Like maybe they'll get that back from Najee.
Maybe that's a Robert Gillespie thing, you know, who's now been the running back coach for both Najee at the end and Trey Sanders. Maybe I want to watch them do the drills where Gillespie is showing them how to do that.
Well, Najee Harrell actually hurdled out of the womb. So
he jumped right over the placenta. Yeah. Okay, you know, but something did dawn on me. We can dog the running game, and I think that's fair. Outside of the one run, like you said, it's hard to take that away. I mean, but at the same time, we had one running back that's a transfer that has never has seen a spring at the University of Alabama dealing with this defense. We had another running back who tore his knee up and then was in a horrific car wreck. And then we had another running back that was a true freshman. So we didn't have two other running backs that have probably the most experience in McClellan and Roydell Williams. So maybe things would have been a little better if those two had been healthy and been out there potentially. But in the end, I'm sort of with Jimmy here. I get what you're saying, that it wasn't a dynamic running game outside of the one run. But it was very workmanlike. And if you know.
Yeah, you're gonna have a different running game too. I don't think we're gonna get like This is like the first year that Alabama hasn't had like a big running back, like a big dude. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guess like Jace McClellan's not small, but they don't have like that Bo Scarborough, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Derrick Henry kind of guy. You know. So I think it lends itself to spreading the ball out more. I think Gibbs averaged something around like 13 carries a game, 12 carries a game at Georgia Tech. I think he probably has the same amount of carries at Alabama. He just might get like 5 targets as well. And I think they switch it up between probably the 4 backs. So Gibbs, maybe Sanders next. I don't know who's going to be the number 2 guy, but then you got Jason and Roydell as well. I don't think the freshmen are going to feature this year just because you can't really go past 4, barring an injury. And really, you don't usually go past 3. So, you know, the 4th back in that rotation is probably going to get maybe 4 or 5 carries a game. But like I think you're gonna get a lot of like short passes, and kind of like different looks. It won't be your typical Alabama running game where you just power the ball. I think you're gonna utilize kind of more spread out concepts, and that'll probably pair well with Bryce Young and even set up the passing game even more.
How about this bold? How about this bold prediction? This is super bold and super specific, but I feel pretty strongly about it. I even told, I think I was as a Twitter thing with Josh Pate in the past 7 days, kind of a bold prediction. How about that? I think Jahmyr Gibbs will be the SEC Player of the Year. I do. That's my pick for SEC Player of the Year, Gibbs. Yet he may be something like the league's 4th, 5th, or 6th leading rusher. I think Gibbs is SEC Player of the Year because he has a lot of yards rushing, maybe close to 1,000 yards or right at it, but it's because of the yards receiving and the kick returns. I think all of it, the kick returns, I think he's housed 3 or 4 kicks at Georgia Tech for touchdowns, and now he's playing with a lot more premium athletes. I think catching the ball from Bryce and running the ball, all of it will add up to a monster statistical year, and he'll win SEC Player of the Year while not necessarily leading the league in rushing. And that would probably be a first, a running back winning SEC Player of the Year, not leading the league in rushing.
It'll be hard to steal that away from Bryce, who in that situation will probably have great numbers as well. But I can see what you're saying, especially I think for that prediction to come true, you're going to have to also see him like return a couple kicks and just be this like Reggie Bush style guy where he's just you
Exactly.
can't take him down. I think if that's the way you're going, I think Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara, that's what you're going to be comparing him to.
Exactly.
Could happen. I think Alabama's going to have a lot of weapons too, and I think Bryce Young's stats are just going to. I mean, I was talking with someone. Could Bryce Young throw for 5,000 yards this season? I mean, probably not. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he throws for less, just because I think they might want to get Milroe in the game more, if possible, and he might be more ready to be in some of those, blowout situations. But like, yeah,
and
Bryce,
the schedule's easier.
They could get him 5,000 yards. Yeah,
and the schedule's easier, so you would think that he may go out of the game a little bit more quickly now. And
yeah, the easy schedule is actually like worse for stats because there's only so many you can get.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me
you
tell
play
everybody,
less. You play less if Alabama's up.
Yeah.
If Alabama's scored already in the high 30s or low 40s by halftime, it's just going to be Milroe and probably just me. I mean, I probably put too much thought into it, but I would only play Ty in 4 games just simply because, I mean, are you really going to get Ty significant snaps that's really going to help him next season that he played so many snaps? To me, assuming health for Bryce and Jalen Milroe, I would play Ty, but I would only play him in 4 games and preserve that red shirt, assuming good health for everybody.
Yeah, I can see that. It's less of a deal now because people leave so early, and it's like one of those things is Ty Simpson. You'd have to judge whether or not you have to get like an ROI on what those snaps are going to be, and also get a good feel of like, is Ty Simpson one of these guys that's angling to leave, and do you need to get him every opportunity? Or if he's just one of these guys that's super patient, then yeah, maybe you save that year for him. But I still think that, like, as good as Milroe is, I think that there's a chance that Ty Simpson's the next quarterback. I think it will be an open battle. It might be harder for like an Arch Manning or an Eli Holstein to come in and win as a freshman. If that's the case, if Alabama lands one of those two, that might be a little bit more of a stretch. But as far as Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe, just like don't write off Ty Simpson. He only had 2-3 months with the team, and I think he looked pretty good. He kind of reminded me of this is gonna sound weird, but like he has that like Tua escapability where he's like mobile and escapable and he could run the ball, but he's not. I wouldn't call him fast, but I wouldn't call him slow either. Like Tua had that 40-yard run with the brace against LSU. Like Simpson could break a 40-yarder. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like he's slow. You know what I'm saying? And he's probably more mobile, like agile, like I guess escapable than like Mac Jones, who also, as a Patriots fan, I gotta say this, has pretty deceptive speed as well.
Let me tell everybody about betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league news, reviews, news, other reviews and views, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs to esports and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, Tony, let's talk a little transfer portal here for a minute. First of all, Stephon Wynn is in the transfer portal, and as a friend of Jimmy and mine said, we thought he transferred a year and a half ago. I loved Stephon Wynn when he committed to Alabama. I thought he would be a thing. It hadn't necessarily worked out. I wish him the best, just like I wish everybody that's in the transfer portal from Alabama the best. And so talk about his removal from the roster, and then Tyler Harrell. Is it Harrell or Harrell?
I go back and forth. I don't know.
Okay,
I've said both on radio and podcast stuff, so I don't know. Whatever one you want.
I'm going to say Harrell until I get an angry DM from his mother.
Okay, Harrell. We'll go with Harrell for this podcast.
So now, my understanding is it's a foregone conclusion he'll be at the University of Alabama.
Yeah, and that will certainly shake things up. I think that you would put him in the slot, and then I think you'd have Jermaine Burton and Ja'Cory Brooks as the two outside receivers. That's what, like, I just came up with a depth chart. Obviously, I didn't put Tyler Harrell in it, but that's what I would do. I think with Harrell, if you were to get him and put him in I think you're going to have a similar setup to last year's, where he kind of takes on that Jameson Williams role, and Jermaine Burton kind of takes on that John Metchie role. And I actually think that Harrell isn't quite as good as Williams, but that Burton is better than Metchie. So I think that you'll have, between the two, then the net balance of those two, I think, will be pretty strong. And then whoever you're getting for that third receiver, I guess, would be Ja'Cory Brooks, is going to be better than Slade Bolden. So it could be really deadly. And the thing about this year's receiving group, Tyler Harrell, for people that don't know, is a guy that, can run. They said, I've heard as low as 4.19 speed. I don't ever believe that. Until I see it on a laser gun, I'm going to say that he has low 4.3 speed, because anything else than that is like super rare, and I just don't believe it until I see it. So, but let's just say low 4.3 speed. That's going to be replacing what Jameson Williams had. And then, so I think you have that speed. But last year when Jameson Williams got hurt, they didn't have another burner. And this year you've got Kendrick Law, you've got Aaron Anderson, you've got, Isaiah Bonds coming in. Even JoJo Earl doesn't necessarily have that speed, but he adds more of that kind of style. And so Kobe Prentice, so like they've got a bunch of guys that can totally burn. And if one of those guys goes down, especially if they get Tyler Harrell, they're not gonna lose the same dynamic of their offense as they did last year when they lost Jameson Williams.
Agreed. I think Harrell is not necessarily a go-to guy, not a guy that's going to lead the team in receptions. I think, assuming good health, I think Jermaine Burton's almost a cinch to do that in terms of number of catches. But Harrell is a nice missing ingredient. And one thing I heard about vertical receivers this week on one of the draft shows is so true. Hey, if you have a great vertical threat, he is helping the team, even if he only catches 2 or 3 balls. If he only catches 2 or 3, as long as you force the other team to defend his vertical route every time he runs it, you have improved your offense. And I think that's really what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's the first luxury addition that Alabama had through the transfer portal, because I think they really did need a cornerback. They got Eli Ricks. They obviously, the spring shows that they needed a left tackle. They got Tyler Steen. Running back, they needed an experienced guy. I know that they have a stacked running back room, but they needed an experienced guy that was also not coming off of an injury. And I think that was important as well. And am I forgetting one? Oh, and Jermaine Burton, I think, obviously you needed a veteran receiver. So this is the first time that, I think they would have made it work, and they still will make it work. It hasn't been official if Tyler Harrell doesn't come. But you're right. Having that extra deep threat, experienced guy, I just don't know how people stop Alabama or just, I don't see a loss if they get a guy like Tyler Harrell. I know losses happen, and it's dependent on a lot of things. But like, I don't see how you beat Alabama, because I think the offense could be, honestly, if it all comes together, I think the offense could be as good as 2020, and then I think the defense could be one of the best defenses Alabama's ever had. This on paper, we say this almost every year, but this on paper could be Alabama's best team, just because the stars are aligning, and then it also seems like that from a mental standpoint, this is a pretty strong team. I think a lot of times losing the championship game helps Alabama the following year. This could be the case there this year.
I talked about being able to talk to a source yesterday, and he said the exact same thing, that losing that championship game may be the best thing that's happened for Alabama fans, and they don't even know it, because it really did restoke Saban's fire, much more so than people even know. The other thing that I was able to glean from my conversation yesterday is Alabama may not be done in the transfer portal. There actually may even be, outside of Harrell, whoever, may actually be another wide receiver. I'm not saying it's official, not saying it's going to be done 100%, but it very well could be done. And, that makes a lot of sense, because in a way, Nick Saban never starts looking for anything. He never stops at all. So he probably is out there. If somebody becomes available, he's probably going to reach out that if he wants them. So, but my understanding is there still could be one or two more transfers heading Alabama's way.
Yeah, and somebody asked me, is that going to hurt Alabama from a recruiting standpoint? At the fact that they're bringing, let's say they bring in Tyler Harrell, and then they also bring in another guy that ends up being a starting receiver, right? And my response is, like, does it hurt Kentucky basketball when they bring in a one and done guy every single year? I mean, sometimes maybe. I guess sometimes, if you don't hit right with those guys and you stop recruiting guys behind them, then maybe it hurts. But I think it's not going to hurt if Alabama, like, the transfer portal is a thing. It's not like it's ending this year. You know what I'm saying? So if Alabama can do this, if Tyler Harrell and Jermaine Burton do well, then they're going to be first in line to get another transfer next year. And people are going to say, well, geez, Jameson Williams went one and done at Alabama. Burton went one and done at Alabama. Harrell went one and done at Alabama. All these guys could end up being first round picks. If I'm a receiver, there's a formula there, and I'm just going to, I'm going to go to Alabama. And then, really Alabama doesn't even have to worry about developing receivers as much. But I do think that there has to be a nice balance. And I think that there might be a little bit of a red flag if they bring in another wide receiver. But that being said, if you bring in another guy capable of getting 1,000 yards, like, who's turning that down? So I think, I'm with you. Like, they could not be done in the portal, and I don't blame them for taking that approach.
Tony, appreciate your being with us today, man. You stayed above and beyond, and we want to do this again. You do have the best hair of any guest we've ever had. It's a small guest list, and two of them are bald. But you still do have the best hair of anybody that's ever been on the program, and that includes Jimmy and me.
Well, I'm glad that the viewers got to see me mess with it the whole time too.
Oh man, you listen. Half the time I've got nose problems. I'm sniffing. They made a joke about me looking like that guy on Seinfeld. That Kramer. Do you ever watch Seinfeld?
I know of Seinfeld. I'm not a huge viewer, but
well, I'm not telling this story if you don't know Seinfeld. You're not going to laugh. You looked at me with such a blank stare that I was like,
it's like Seinfeld. It's like Seinfeld. These guys are pretty old. That must have been on in the 60s.
How old are you, Tony?
I'm 32.
Jeez Louise.
But
I'm literally wearing underwear.
I'm 30, just like repetitive. I don't like being over 30. I think I'm just gonna stay. I'm one of these people. I just want to stay at 30 and just tell
people. I got bad news. I got really bad news. You hadn't even started getting up in the middle of the night to pee yet. I do that routinely.
I am the age of when I'm walking my dog and it's cold, my back is ruined. That's my thing. Yeah.
But Tony, I'm going to say, like I said before, get your affairs in order. It's not like you don't hit 40 and like things are so much better now. No. Yeah. Trust me on this. Trust Jimmy on this. He's older than I am.
Yep. That's true.
Buddy, Tony, thanks so much for being with us. We'll have you on again soon, man. This is too much fun. You're the best at what you do. That's Tony Taco Tuesday, I think is how you say your name. Is that right?
Hey, you can make some real NIL money with that name.
Don't so true.
Don't blow that up. At a previous job, when I was working for Tuscaloosa News, called me Tony Tuscaloosa. So.
Oh man,
that sounds like a gangster. That's a
This is
gangster.
awesome.
That's
The
a gangster
T-shirt
name.
options are limitless.
Isn't there a Tony the Greek gangster? Like I think that or like he's a betting guy. There is a Tony the Greek somewhere.
No,
That's
Jimmy the Greek.
oh, maybe it is Jimmy the Greek.
Oh my God, you're so young. You don't remember Jimmy the Greek?
It is Jimmy the
Luke.
Greek. It's not Tony the Greek.
Luke, it's not that he's young; it's that we're old.
That's a good point. But listen, Tony, when we get off of this, Wikipedia Jimmy the Greek. He used to be on CBS's, NFL Today or whatever.
That was before
he was
cable.
great. And then one day, out of the blue, he has this whole thing about how African Americans are better athletes because of all this breeding. It was bizarre, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?" And
that was the end of him. Then
that was the end of him.
Bit of trouble. Yeah.
God, yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I won't be like him then.
Don't.
Yeah.
No Jimmy the Greek stuff, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Maybe I'll steer away from Tony the Greek. Yeah. I don't.
I like Tony Tuscaloosa.
Tony Tuscaloosa is great.
That's cool. That's cool. We might go with that from here on out.
That's fine.
All right, buddy. Thank you, guys. Roll Tide, everybody.
Hey, roll Tide.
Yeah. See you guys.
All right.